Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. This being a show where I talk about TV shows of the supernatural, fantasy, and/or science fictional genre. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Season 2, Episode 4 of From. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. Well, first and foremost, let's start off with Kenny's side of things. Kenny, obviously, we got a flashback. It's probably still early-ish days of when Kenny, his mom, and dad first came to town, but they've been there long enough where they have stayed in their own place. But the problem is their dad, Kenny's dad, got confused and he almost let some monsters in. So that's why he started staying at the hospital. The place is actually a hospital, isn't it? Whatever the medical place is. I mean, it might actually be considered a hospital. But whatever the case may be, that's why his dad started staying there. I don't know if they referenced that in Season 1 or not, if that was kind of what that was about. And maybe they did, and it's been a while, so I might not remember. But obviously it is that sad struggle that Kenny has of neither his mom or him wants that, but they don't have much choice because him staying in the house with them is too dangerous because something like this could happen again. And obviously he's like, no, I want to be with my family. And his Kenny's mom has to convince him. It's like, hey, you have to stay here and get better. And once you get better, you can come back home. And it's just because Kenny knows, there's no getting better. His condition is what it is, and it will only get worse as time goes on. But even Boyd's like, I get what it means to take care of family, because I'd completely forgotten that Boyd is dealing with Parkinson. That obviously that's something that eventually Ellis will have to worry about too. But it's I'd forgotten about it because obviously it is a hereditary thing. So his dad had it, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. So when he had that conversation with Kenny about it's hard taking care of a parent, it's understandable. And so we see Boyd explaining because Kenny thinks you've got this all under control, but Boyd's like, no, there's just people here who are all scared trying to make it through. He's like, I'm just pretending like I've got it all figured out just to keep people calm, but I'm gonna need someone to help me. And that's when he made Kenny his deputy. And so Kenny brings him to after he found Sarah. I'd actually completely forgot. Once again, it's just because I didn't have time to rewatch Season 1 before this, beforehand. So I thought Kenny knew. In my head, I was thinking Kenny knew about Sarah being the one that killed his dad, but it's no, he doesn't know that. So that's what makes the whole situation awkward, because obviously Sarah knows for sure, hey, I'm the reason why Kenny's dad is dead. So it doesn't get talked about, but let's not forget, it's also the dude that was in a car with Jade. He super got murdered at the same time as well. But Sarah has been here, so I think I thought that last episode, she probably most likely stayed, the moment Boyd went in the tree, he ended up where he ended up. Sarah, because those trees don't work the same way, because the same thing happened with Victor and Julie last season. Julie ended up in that place that Jade went to, and he saw the guy, had a vision of that guy underneath the boulder. I think if I remember correctly, Julie ended up there, and Victor followed her behind the tree. But it's you won't end up in the same spot, and we see that. And Sarah's been here ever since. So she's been hiding out because she knows she can't go out in town, because if she does, because everyone knows what she did at the bare minimum. It's you killed your brother, you tried to kill Ethan, so it's you're not everyone won't, because the only person who knew about his adventure with Sarah is Ellis. So, but when it's all said and done, Boyd and her talk about everything that happened, and him still believing that she is the key to this place, but she doesn't want to lie anymore. She wants to come forward because it's I deserve whatever punishment I get because of what I did. I did some terrible things, and no matter what, even if it was this place messing with me, which this place has made people do something that they regret. It has gotten to people, but for her, it's it doesn't matter. I still did what I did. In her mind, it's I deserve whatever punishment they dish out. But for Boyd, it's no, in his mind, it's almost you made up for it, because the fact is, I believe you about this place. There's something else going on here. You have a special connection. You are the means. You are a key to the puzzle of figuring out our way out of this place. So I'm not going to like throw you to the wolves. But it's like, how do you explain that to Kenny? Because Kenny's like, yo, she needs to go in a box for like, it's like, yeah, anytime you do something that leads to someone getting hurt or killed, that's your punishment. It's a box. It's not fair to let her go after she did what she did. It's kind of, Kenny's perspective on things. And ultimately, he goes back later on to try and talk to Sarah. And it's like, hey, you did some bad stuff, but we can try and explain. But for Sarah, it's like, I'm glad I got the chance to help Boyd, but I am back here now, because I think at the very least she thought like, hey, if I'm out there, she probably never really fully intended to come back to town. That was also the thing with Boyd. It's like, yeah, if she dies out here, she was going to die in the box anyway. But at the very least, she was the key to things, and she's like, I did the terrible things I did, and at the very least, I thought if I could help Boyd, I'd be helping everyone too. And maybe on some level, she might not have thought she'd ever return from the woods, but here I am now, and I can't like help but feel guilty, especially when Kenny's like, hey, I'm trying to understand, like, we'll get people to understand why you did what you did. You thought you were trying to do the right thing, and that's gutting her even more, because it's like, you out of anyone should be the last person showing me any form of sympathy. So she ultimately ends up telling Kenny, and Kenny had, like, he had that heartbreaking scene with Boyd where he was like, my mom I've never seen my mom cry until after my dad died. My mom cries all the time because she blames herself, thinking, oh, it's my fault that like he got out, that I didn't lock the basement door. But Sarah was the one who did it. You knew this entire time. He's like, yeah, the night before I left is when I found out. And it's like, and when were you ever going to tell me? And it's like, he wanted to tell him the truth, which we'll get to Boyd's scene in a second. Him and Cautry, we'll get to that in a second. But yeah, the whole point was not to tell Kenny, because the moment you tell Kenny, and I thought was beautiful. And let's just go ahead and take from that conversation. It is interesting because Boyd had asked Christy, like, all right, because of his Parkinson, he's worried that maybe there might be some delusional aspects to it, but it seems like it's a rare thing, and even if it does come up, it's usually much later in the process. So it's like, yeah, like seeing what he saw in that building, seeing bugs crawling his skin, now like seeing Cautry, and Cautry kind of being a dick. I even love him being like, wow, you're even more of an asshole now that you're dead. Because Cautry is like, oh, what are you going to do? Tell Kenny the truth? You're telling him the truth would only be alleviating your own guilt. The thing what you need to do is shut your mouth, never tell him, because what was the thing you were telling Ellis about people having something to hold on to, that piece of themselves they're holding on to stay alive in this place? Well, you're that for Kenny. Now that his dad is gone, he's latched onto you even more. You're the person that gave him responsibility. You were kind of always that figure to him, but even more so, he doubled down on you after losing his dad. If you take that away from Kenny, he'll still have his mom, but like, Boyd is the reason why he's able to do what he's able to do. Like, yes, him and Donna were both trying to do their best Boyd impression while he was gone, when it came to dealing with the people on the bus and just everything that went down after Boyd was gone. But the fact is that once that's taken from him, like, Kenny will be hollowed out, and it will be that much easier for those monsters to get to him. Yes, he'll still have his mom, but he won't have that spark and that drive like he would, and that will make him vulnerable to this place breaking him. So that's the sad situation. So the thing is, I'm curious, Kenny wants Sarah in the box after all of this, and he gets rid of his badge. He's done being the deputy. So the question then becomes, what is Kenny going to do? Is he going to announce it to everyone, or is he going to keep it to himself? Is he going to tell his mom? He'll probably tell his mom just to alleviate her guilt, but I don't know. Because that's also going to cut deep too, because Kenny even said it, and this is also what made Sarah feel even more guilty of, like, no, I can't, like, my mom thought of you as like the daughter she never had. So when she finds out that Sarah was responsible, how will she respond? Maybe Kenny will be all about vengeance. Maybe she will be the one that's about trying to save her, spare her life, because killing her won't bring her back, especially if Boyd comes forward about like she has some special connection to this place, because there are quite a few people who have some connection to this place, because Sarah talked about seeing the boy, which we know there are 3 people who've seen the boy: her, Victor, and Ethan. Didn't Tabitha see the boy too in white? I don't remember she saw him in episode 1 or not. Maybe not. I could have sworn she did, but at the very least, those three have. So they all have some connection to this place. Then you also have Eldred. It's just interesting that there are at least 4 people that have like some deeper connection to this place. Now Boyd's got his circumstances, so you might bump that up to 5, maybe even 6 if you throw in whatever's going on with Tabitha. Because once again, seeing those kids, she's still seeing them. Who knows what the hell that's about? I don't know. I mean, especially because they are wearing white, so that's why I was like, I'm not sure if they're connected to the boy in white. As Sarah puts it, it's like that boy is kind of stuck here. I don't know if like he's like like either he's something pretending to be that little boy, or maybe that little boy's kind of a spirit, because that's the conversation of what happens when people die here. Do their souls get trapped, and is that kid one of the souls that's trapped here? Maybe he's been here a very, very, very long time, and he doesn't know how to help, but he's trying to guide everyone through. I have no idea. But yeah, it puts her in Sarah in this very interesting spot that she's one of the special people with a connection to this place. So I could definitely see it coming down to a vote, being like, who wants her to live, who wants her to die. And I could definitely see Kenny's mom deciding to spare her despite all the pain, because she believes it won't make anything better. It won't heal any pain. It won't alleviate what they've lost, and she's done what she can to try and make up for it. Maybe that'll matter. Maybe it won't. I have no idea. So that's definitely going to be interesting to see. And obviously, staying on the conversation of Boyd, trying to juggle all of this, it's going to be interesting now that Kenny's no longer on his side. Once again, seeing the bugs and everything. So it's like, right, you already had to worry about the Parkinson situation because your hands were already shaking. So now you add that with like, hey, I think I'm potentially losing my mind. I'm supposed to, as Donna said last episode, Boyd, get your shit together because we need you to not fall to pieces during all of this. So heavy is the head that wears the crown, right? So, I think that's not the actual phrasing of it. I think that's the phrasing, like the general colloquialism. Like I think it's kind of been butchered to people paraphrase it the wrong way, and I continue perpetuating that wrong paraphrasing. But I'm going to stick with it regardless because I do like that phrase. But either way, so what happens now on that front is going to be interesting to see. Other than that, we had Jim and Tabitha finally catching up with each other a little bit. Jim tells Tabitha about the voice he heard. Jim is basically having the same theories I have of like, this has to be an experiment, because he's like, right, I contacted someone on the radio and they warned me about you digging. That's why I came to check on you. And then like 20 minutes later, the house collapsed. It's like someone's doing this on purpose. Once again, the electricity is going nowhere. The cords don't go anywhere, but yet we still have power. And he's saying that basically it's like, right, our job when I'm building a roller coaster to make it seem like it's impossible, but it is possible. It's just engineered that way. So he's like, someone must be concocting all this. Someone, once again, or something is watching all of you. So who else heard the voice? Donna did. So Jim brings it up to her. She's like, yes, I heard the voice, but I also remember said the voice warned you about your wife. Oh, and lo and behold, 20 minutes later, your house collapsed. So she's like, keep that shit to yourself, because yes, if someone is listening or watching all of us, if someone is all behind us, do you think they're going to be too happy about the fact that we are getting a little too self-aware that we know something's out there? Also, who's to say it's a human? We are dealing with monsters that look and sound just like regular people, so it could have been one of them on the line, so there's definitely something going on here. It definitely does have like this is all some large experiment, because it's like everything has been designed, because this is specifically what Jim was like, no, the fact of the matter is Marielle is here, Christy's fiance, and once again it's just like no one has had anyone they're connected to show up in this place, and all of a sudden Christy, because it's a super meta thing, because obviously it creates more drama in the form of the story, because Kenny has feelings for Christy, and Christy brings up, hey, I have a fiance. So the moment she references her fiance and kind of the different paths she would take in life, like, hey, I want to find out if the woman I love still loves me, or kind of move on with Kenny. just after that, sometime after that, oh, boom, your fiance shows up. It's like, the place probably didn't know about that until it was like, you know what? Let's use this opportunity and bring her in. Because once again, let's not forget, this is pulling from all over the country. Everyone started at different points. We're on completely different roadways that led them to the tree. So what is going on in that regard? You know? And so Jim wants to try, I guess, use the radio to try and get in contact with that voice again, to try and figure out, like, okay, who are you, and get maybe some answers to figuring this whole thing out. Because I guess that's going to be hit, like, there are so many different sides of tackling this thing. I think that's going to be Jim's side of thing, of being in direct contact, whereas everyone else has, like, their direct but indirect thing. Once again, Ethan, Victor, Tabitha, Sarah, like, they all kind of have their thing going on, and I think they're going to handle things on a more, like, supernatural, science fictional, whatever it ends up being, angle. Which Donna is stressed out of her mind because she's got to, like, right, we've got all these new people from the bus being relocated, and the biggest douchebag of them all is here, causing a problem. He didn't want his bag being gone through. He was causing an issue because Kenny's, like, mom was there being like, hey, we got to divide stuff up. That's how it works here. It's especially at Colony House, like, you know, everyone has to share and stuff. So he beat the living crap out of someone, and Donna was done with him because, you know, Fatima was suggesting, like, maybe we should lighten up the rules with but it's like, nah. Donna's like, fuck that. Had the axe in hand. Was like, okay, get up. And he's like, what? Axe to the wall. Get up. Put him on the bus. It's like, cool. Oh, yeah, you're also going to be here with a constant reminder of what happened. It kind of gives me Invincible vibes. This is the second time I've referenced Invincible today. But it's kind of like the Guardians of the Globe situation. It's like, yeah, this stain's going to stay here until you prove yourself. It's like, yeah, douchebag, you want to act like a douchebag? Okay, you don't have to stay at Colony House. This could be where you stay, and you're going to be looking at those marks from that old couple that was here. A reminder of what this place is. Oh, what makes it even more beautiful? There are no blinds on this bus. So when those things are walking around at night trying to get to you, tapping on the door, on the window, oh, you're going to see every little detail, you know? So it's like, yeah, you kind of accept this as is because, hey, here's your talisman. The Matthews aren't going to need theirs anymore, but you could use it. But if it falls on the ground, it's just a rock. So you might want to make sure it keeps hanging up. So kind of wished him the best of luck and bounce. And it's because she's like, you are stubborn. I know the type of guy that you are. She's like, I get what you're doing. You've seen what you've saw, but you are so stubborn that she's like, I know it's going to take you longer than anyone else because you are still trying to rationalize all this. You're still unwilling to recognize that despite all that you've seen, you refuse to fully see this as real as it is. So I think he's going to fall in line soon enough. One night out there on the bus alone, he's already terrified, basically about to, like, shit his pants already after Donna left him, that you could tell, like, yeah, tough guy act is kind of disappearing. I'm curious, like, what is in his bag? I mean, we know, like, well, I was about to say the gun, but it's like, no, like, he had to give up the gun last episode. So what's in his bag that he was so being protective of? He seemed like he could be a cooperative enough dude, but he's going like full douchebag these past couple episodes. So we'll have to see. Like, maybe this place will break him of his douche. Not maybe. Oh, it definitely will break him of that douchebaggery, and maybe we'll find out the reason why he is the way he is. Yeah, the situation with Ethan and Victor, they're sadly not on good terms anymore because it's like, yeah, you kind of let him come into my room, and it's like, I told him to not touch any of your stuff, so the only other friend in town that Ethan has is kind of mad at him right now, so that's very heartbreaking. And it's like, oh, what else are you doing? It's like some stuff. It's like, please leave me alone. Here's some stuff I saw with your mom, but like, I don't want to talk to you about it. Just leave me alone. And he's like, I'm sorry about letting him in your room. And also, here's some markers I found in storage for you. Like, I think there were markers to help him draw and stuff, so that's kind of sad. You also had Julie trying to reach out to Elgin, which, once again, the fact is Victor's like, yeah, I don't like that guy. Like, there is something there. So I don't know if that's going to be like an Elgin and Julia thing. I mean, well, we know she had a thing for Fatima, so it's like, I mean, once again, we don't know, like, I mean, yeah, she has a thing for girls, but we don't know maybe maybe she only has a thing for girls, or maybe she's bi, and maybe that's a setup for that. But it also, because Victor brought up the whole like I don't trust that guy thing. The fact is that it seems like he might have, I don't know, Julie caught his eye. I don't know. We also don't know what his actual nightmare was about, which I love that tying this all together, you had Jade being like, oh God, you guys are moving in? First he had to deal with those hippies, now it's you. It's like, geez, guy, we lost our house. He's like, well, at least you had one to begin with, because he's been living with like Kenny and his mom like since, you know? So he goes to the bar, which is actually kind of sad now, because it's like, yeah, Thomas is dead. Isn't that? No, Thomas is their son. God, I'm blanking on home dude's name who run the bar, who died in episode. Yeah, it was episode 2 he died. Like, yeah, it kind of sucks. So, yeah, you could go to him for advice or help and a good drink, and he's not there anymore. So we see the bus driver, Bacta, drinking on her own. And she feels guilty because she's like, if I had listened to that kid, but it's like, yeah, you'd already saw the tree. So by the time you see the tree, it's already done. So even if you had listened to the kid, it was already too late. So there's nothing that you could have done. You know, so stop racking your brain over guilt, because for her, it's like, those people are my responsibility. As the bus driver, I was supposed to get them where they want. But Jade's like, to be fair, it's like, you know, you kind of have to pay attention to your own life. It's kind of fucked up. You fucked up your own life, so you don't have to worry about the fact that you kind of screwed everyone else's up. It's like, he was kind of trying to tell a bad joke, but they both kind of laugh. They actually kind of bond over the fact is, for her, she's like, yeah, I actually wasn't supposed to be on that bus. She was doing this to pay off, like, college, was that it? Some tuition stuff. And she actually, like, had enough to pay off her tuition, but she wanted extra money. Just to kind of have in her savings. So to kind of like, hey, I worked so hard, I want a little money on the side that I can kind of do whatever with, because I should be allowed to enjoy my life to some extent. And it's like, yeah, I deserve it. And it's like, oh, did I get what I deserve now that I'm stuck here? Which Jay talks about, hey, I'm in a similar boat, sold my company before I got here, and lo and behold, where we are. I guess to what we deserve or something like that. It's just like, yeah, life, this place in particular, once again, it kind of plays into the whole, like, someone is having a laugh, someone is pulling the cruelest joke. That it is interesting how it works out like that. Once again, not even just the Marielle of it all, but even the fact is that Bacta was like, yeah, I just made a decision that, like, oh, I wanted some extra money, so it seems so purposeful. I don't know, like, everything happens for a reason when it comes to this place, so it just feels too purposeful all around. Really quickly about Marielle, too, I'm like, well, I know she's a nurse and she was stocking in medicine. They made too much of a... I mean, I guess it's like, right, Tabitha got introduced to her and stuff, because, oh, who are you? It's like, oh, Marielle, I'm a nurse, don't worry about it. But I'm also like, you're not going to imply, like, she has, like, a drug issue and it's like she's the last person that should be around the medicines. I don't know. It felt like, like, not unnecessary, but it felt like a scene of, like, well, if it's included, it feels like it might be important, but maybe, once again, maybe it was just supposed to introduce Tabitha to Marielle and nothing more. I just think it's interesting because she was there. Christy is trying to, like, keep Jim in bed, but you just kind of let him leave, even though you know he's kind of in the condition he's in. That's why I feel like, I don't know. Also, to be fair, Christy hasn't been around her fiance for a while, so she might not be the same person that you left, like, those 6 months ago. So just so much to kind of pull and dissect from this episode in that regard. It's definitely going to be interesting to ultimately see where all of this ends up taking us going forward into the next episode. But really, that's all I'm going to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and goodbye.